Awesome. Well, we've got our next speaker. He's already here. Thank you so much. You joined right on time, which is awesome, kicking us off in style. So this next talk, I think, is going to be really interesting. You're going to be talking about cyber resiliency. I'm just going to throw it right over to you.
Yeah, Sam, and I actually decided to change the topic, man. So I hope the audience is
Alrighty.
okay with that. This is more like the next step, right? Like cyber resiliency for us as professionals, as we look at the mass adoption of AI and the upcoming tsunami of knowledge and information. So let me share my screen here. All right, can you see that? Yes, and hopefully uh, you can see that as well. Yes. So cyber resiliency is resiliency for an enterprise or for a network, right? But how can we ourselves become resilient on the upcoming changes with the mass adoption of AI, right? That is going to create an abundance of knowledge, right? Like right now we have an abundance of things. Imagine if you want to go buy a designer, sure, you can go to Target and get one for $9.99, right? If you want to buy a piece of a nice design furniture, you can go to Walmart, get it for $45. So what I'm trying to say with that is, uh, nowadays we're living in a time that we can have almost everything that people in previous generations couldn't even imagine, right? Like the quality of life and the abundance of things that we have now would have been even dreamed for the 1% of population generations ago. So this abundance is going to create challenges as we need to adapt the way we're thinking. And why does that matter? Because it's the intersection of brain skills, functions per different hemisphere of the human brain. And over the last decades, many decades, right? Most of the work that has been done via skills and functions developed by the left side of the brain, right, the left hemisphere, which is in itself responsible, for the language processing, mathematical reasoning, logic, and anything that has to do with analytical tasks. Now, that has been fantastic when it comes to all the work that we've done and all the innovation that we've had on the spaces from innovation in medicine from doctors, right? Um, Now, where I think we're going to have to do a lot more work is on implementing the right hemisphere skills, right? This conceptual thinking and functions. So the right hemisphere of our brain handles spatial awareness, your ability on artistic, right? It's very important on your creativity, intuition, and emotional processing, which, as you know now, emotional intelligence is one of those most sought after soft skills for companies, right? Any questions so far, Sam? Here, I can keep going. Yeah. So, what are some of the key cognitive functions of our left side of the brain is again, language skills, mathematical ability, and analytical thinking. So, when it comes to analytical thinking, this is mostly focused on the logical reasoning, right? Problem solving, and follow structure thinking. When it comes to our language skills, it's mostly the speaking itself, right? The grammar, vocabulary, and language comprehension. And it's very strong and allows us our mathematical ability, which is what it's involved in all the math, calculation, number manipulations, and quantitative analysis. So, what are some of the skills that are enhanced by these natural tendencies and these natural strengths that we have on the left side of our brain? Is the analytical skills to identify complex issues and logical problem solving, right? Remember on the previous slide we talked about structures. This is what the logical problem solving framework goes, right? Our left side of the brain allows us to be very good on detail oriented functions and tasks, right? Imagine a lawyer, for example. Excellent tasks are requiring precision and structure, same as medicine. And again, the mathematical ability on all the numerical disciplines. Now, as you can see the trend here, right? All these skills, all these functions. Well, then guess what? Society have all these, career paths that are favoring this left side of the brain, right? Which, as you can see, has been the ones that have really, helped us evolve our society to um, have a lot of different career paths that are the you used to be when generations ago. If you want to be successful in life, you better be a lawyer, right? Maybe you want to be an engineer, maybe study finance, because these are the same skills that are leveraged. Now what it has done has created a challenge when um, a lot of these functions are not really creative, right? They're like pretty structured. And nowadays, and as you're going to see as I discuss on the mass adoption of AI, how this new abundance of knowledge is going to require us to leverage more the right side of the brain skills that we're going to, talk more. Now, implications of like on the professional development side of these left brain skills. Again, this is the structured career paths that we already talked about. That require the systemic thinking and detailed planning. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we're gonna move on to what I've been spending a lot of time researching is the skills and functions of our right hemisphere, right? And it's very strong for creativity and artistic skills. This is the hemisphere that facilitates our imagination, artistic abilities, and creating problem solving. It's being able to grasp different concepts and put them together for a solution. This side of the brain, it's also the one that allows us for spatial awareness, which is key understanding on and manipulating of spatial relationships, which is pretty fundamental for fields like architecture and design and emotional perception, enhances emotional intelligence, empathy, and ability to read and respond to societal cues. When I think it's key here, the spatial awareness, I think is one of the most important skills that we need to start more developing ourselves. Why? As now we have an abundance of things, right? The value of now in some cases it resides on the aesthetics, right? On how beautiful something is, right? That's why design makes a lot of impact nowadays. It's not just good enough to have a good product, right? Your product has to be good and it has to be at the same time in a way beautiful. Now, some skills are enhanced by the right brain dominance. Intuitive decision making, right? That gut feeling, that ability to make decisions based on intuitive understanding. As human beings, there's so much that we're perceiving through all our senses that is not just things that we're reading on black and white, right? And being able to take action on everything that you're perceiving, I think it's really important. Again, this at the same time allows you to come up. Instead of seeing the world under one perspective, imagine having a prism, right, where everything you see has a different light, different perspectives. So that allows you to have innovative problem-solving skills. It strengthens your creativity abilities. Again, enabling and unique out-of-the-box solutions. And my favorite part as well here is the artistic expression, right? It boosts the abilities for visual arts, music, sculpture, and allows us as well to interpret what these artists are painting, designing, and doing, right? But it's a way for you to interpret with your sensors, not necessarily interpret on a logical way via numbers, right? Makes sense to you, Sam? Am I on point, man? What are your thoughts?
No, it makes total sense. I think it's really interesting topics right now as AI models become increasingly more complex, and we all are all having to kind of think through this stuff. So yeah, super appropriate topic.
Okay, good. Thank you for inviting me as well. So now, what are some of the traditional jobs and career paths that favor the right side? Is obviously the creativity, the arts part of it, right? So the creative industries, advertisement, marketing, graphic design, multimedia arts, humanities and education, which I think it's something that should be more strongly viewed by society. I think we need a lot more educators in the world, and suitable for again, you can be a teacher, you can work on psychology, cultural studies, and all these are career paths where empathy and holistic understanding of the world and of what you're doing is very valued. And again, this is also my favorite part, and what I'm working on is the innovation and research and development function, right? Being able to come up with different perspectives, be able to grasp concepts at a different level, abstract thoughts to that, and not just think on the way the box is, but think outside the box. This really enables you to come up with those different solutions. And I keep looking right because that's where I see your face here, but the camera is here. So implications of right brain dominance in professional development. Again, enhanced creativity, number one, right? Innovative problem solving skills and abilities, and being able to adapt to different environments. I think that's going to be key as we move forward, right? Interpersonal skills. This is number one. If you want to collaborate and get better at working on teams, interpersonal skills and just being nice to people, man, and being perceptive of how people are communicating, how what are their personalities, what are their motivations. It really enables you to be more effective. And unfortunately, being remote has kind of made that a little bit more challenging. It's not impossible, but it does require a lot more effort. And emotional intelligence gives you the ability to lead with empathy and understanding. And I think it's really valuable on leadership roles, right? Being able to influence or motivate your team without sounding negative or putting too much pressure, right? In one way, like I believe there's talent everywhere, right, Sam? And I think our job as leaders is identify there where people are geniuses, right? I think everybody has a capability to be outstanding. It's up to us discover what that is and just enable that for them, right? And it's counterintuitive to the traditional HR practices, but I think it's changing as different generations come to the market. Now organizations have to adapt to what the different intricacies of Gen Z, for example.
Right.
Now, this is what I've been thinking for the last couple of years, man, and that's why I decided to change my my talk is the role of AI on knowledge expansion, right? So what AI enables for us is incredible data processing capabilities that we have not, frankly, I never thought possible years ago, right? Personalized learning allows you to really learn everything that you can at a pretty good baseline level, right? Maybe not at the graduate level of college, but depending on what data at the same time you can feed to this model, then you can keep going and more specialized. And just like globalization created an abundance of trade, right? Now we can have products from all over the world wherever we are, right? I think that this as mass adoption of AI is going to create an abundance of knowledge, right? And that's going to allow, like when internet first came in, that allowed people to start talking on different means. I think by having access to this incredible cognitive source of knowledge, right? It's going to enable a lot of people are going to elevate themselves, right?
Yeah.
Now, and that's gonna that's what I call as the knowledge tsunami, right? And some of the challenges is going unprecedented surge of the amount of available information, right? The volume is going to be incredible. The speed of accumulation at the same time just going to keep growing exponentially, outpassing our human capacity to absorb and process that. And the diversity of sources, as we title these models together, then all the data together, right? As they're able to train with everything that's out there, is just like the next layer of information processing. And so the implications of this knowledge tsunami, like we mentioned from the previous slide, right, is information overload. We don't have the bandwidth to see everything and do everything, right? At the same time, just like as we've seen a lot of the outsourcing on the software engineering and the automation space, right, that those used to be blue-collar jobs in the U.S., because that's where all the work that was being done in the U.S., then people eventually in India, in Asia, in other places were able to do the same high quality of work for a fraction of the cost, right? So that has driven a lot of outsourcing of the work that used to be, left side skill, left side brain type of roles. Outsource them, right? Because that's the by the access and ability, by the accessibility of and decentralization of production of these processes, then allows economies that are more cheaper, right? Now, and this is what I'm not necessarily afraid of, right? Not here in the U.S. at least. Why? Because I think no other country has the creativity that we have, right? I think, and the reason I say that is this is still the number one country for immigrants or for people to come and make the best of their life, right? The freedoms that we have here, freedom of expression, of freedom of speech, economic freedom, is really a catalyst for people to come and build different products, different companies, different movements. People are allowed to express themselves, and that's why I think we are more probably better equipped to learn the right brain skills that we need to do the next level of work, right? So how do we navigate this knowledge tsunami? Is by fostering creativity and innovation. Then we can find new ways to interpret and use this vast amount of data that AI is going to give us access to, which I think is part of the American innovative spirit. Again, it's going to really help us on emotional intelligence to understand and managing the dynamics of human and the AI interaction in the workplace, and being able to see the big picture, right? That holistic thinking, which is really challenging as well now, especially as we're getting close to the election time, right? It feels like the news media, it's very challenging to navigate, right? We always got to be cognizant of whatever we see, and think twice, not just believe it take it at face value. So yeah, that's what I wanted to chat with you here. Now, open for any questions, thoughts, or
yeah. Let's see. We'll get you. There we go. Yeah, let's see. We've still got some time left in your talk, so we could take some questions from chat. If anyone has any questions, please throw them in. We had a comment from Frank. He said, "Loving this dive," so that was cool. People are appreciating it. Brianna asked. They asked, "Have you read Molly White's recent blog post about AI? What are your thoughts about it?" Are you familiar with that?
I have not. I'll put it on
Okay.
my.
Okay. I think one of the I was glad to I just thought this was an interesting talk, given that just yesterday Facebook or Meta announced Llama 3, and that's going to be an open source model. They plan to open source their next one or two models as well. So we're going to continue to just see this technology increase dramatically over the next, let's say, 18 months or so. We're just going to be hurtling towards quote unquote AGI. And so it's just such an interesting, we're just at a really interesting inflection point in this technology. Curious if you have any other thoughts on just kind of like the implications of this stuff, especially with models like with Llama 3 that going open source. And then also, I guess I wanted to mention too, that Facebook's rolling that out across all their products. So now when you go in Facebook or Instagram search, there's an AI chatbot right there that wants to help you do basically anything. So it's just pretty incredible, the democratization of this technology.
Yes, spot on, man. I think commend the efforts of anybody on specific, academia is known by doing work, and what do academia wants? They want to publish the research, right? So they're always going to be publishing out there. So whenever you see private companies doing something similar, right, in order to elevate the understanding of technologies, that's always viewed positively on my side, right? Because again, that creates innovation. That's how you foster innovation. Now, Sam, what I'm not struggling with, but in the back of my mind is, as we are fantastic at innovate, we innovate at speeds that really nobody else does, right?
Right.
And the challenge with that is the implications of some of these innovations are not understood until many years later, right? Case in point, the social media, right? Fantastic at innovate, fantastic pushing it out there to everybody, but then 10 years later, you see implications on the psyche, right? On the, of people that maybe are not ready to really jump into this. And at the same time is there's so much information out there, and we need to be able to protect our own mind, right? So, and I think being able to, have access to really good information and education, helps us protect our cognitive domain, right? Which is by knowledge. No, yeah, good for them. No, I'm excited to see where this is going. But yeah, totally right. Like Microsoft AI Copilot, right? And I'm googling something, and already there's Google is already doing that for me. I just saw that like a few days ago, and yeah, I'm excited to see where this is going.
Yeah, I mean, Google I/O is in about 3 weeks, I think it is. So expect a bunch of different Google products that are going to have more and more AI stuff integrated into it. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting times. If anyone, again, throwing it out to the live chat, if you guys have any other questions, please let us know. I guess one other thought to kind of get you churning is any thoughts or advice for people at companies right now in terms of how they should think about AI? I guess where I'm thinking about this is like, there's kind of this meme of like, oh, just sprinkle some AI on top of like whatever company you are. You just sprinkle some AI on top, and then all of a sudden you're an AI company or whatever. And I think we're still often kind of searching for actual interesting implementations and usages of AI, the stuff that kind of takes stuff a little bit further than what's the obvious, I guess. So like the chatbot or whatever. So I guess curious if you have any thoughts about how people at work should be thinking about how to integrate AI into their company or even just their day-to-day work. And
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably answer this in two ways. I mean, two parts, right? One from the perspective of an employee, right? And then the second one from the perspective of leadership. Starting from the perspective of leadership. If you are a company that does anything that's not just like go and break rocks, right, or handle heavy equipment, you need to take advantage of AI, right? You need to invest and figure out what's the best way to provide a safety mechanism for your employees to explore, right? To come up with best practices, to come up with innovation that will help your business itself. It could be automating a function, automating a process, enrichment a playbook, anything like that. And I'm afraid of a lot of these companies that do a lot of basic customer service type of work over the phone, right? Like what's going to happen to hundreds of or millions of jobs whenever the next iteration of Gen AI comes, that is going to those jobs not cost effective for businesses, because businesses at the same time, if they can hire an AI model for $1 an hour compared to paying somebody, then they're going to make that business decision, right? And so yeah, companies need to be aware that this could be a very big disruption for them if they don't take action of it. And as an employee, what what I would do is ask your leadership for not necessarily a sandbox, but think about like a sandbox, like a safe space, right? I think for creativity and innovation, it's important to give our people room for growth, and that room for growth is also room for failure, right? That's how you experiment. It's by trying and trying and trying and trying until it works out, right? Obviously take the lessons learned whenever you guys are failing, and I think there's some probably I know there are, but what I would do from best practice is not block AI access to your employees, right? Just create the controls where they're not allowed to put in customer data, right? Or whenever, or create an instance internally that is monitored by your team, right? For example, an instance where employees, depending on controls you have, they're not allowed to, receive the entire answer because they don't have access to the data that everybody else has, right? Like, how do you put controls on information so you can restrict whatever's the output, right?
Well, awesome. Yeah, Frank in the chat said, yep, working IT help desk, it became apparent that they were training models to take over eventually. Yeah, the only thing I was going to add, or basically just expand on, is I think everyone should be experimenting with this stuff as much as they can, just to keep yourself in the loop, right? Like if you're, boots on the ground, obviously we're all trying to make sure that we're skilling up and making sure that we're relevant in the current marketplace, so to speak. So I just suggest experiment with this stuff, get a chat GPT subscription or whatever, or experiment with Gemini. Just keep yourself in the loop so that you can experiment with how to use this stuff. And sometimes it's not always like super useful, but it can at least help me like iterate on ideas. Like I'll throw it a thing that I'm thinking about and it'll throw me back some ideas. And some of them A lot of them aren't great, to be honest with you, but at least like it kind of helps me validate some thinking that I have, or it's almost kind of like bouncing ideas off of someone. So I think it's just useful for folks to keep experimenting with it.
No, I agree, and that's how get exposure to something, right? I think um, traditionally, I know I have maybe a few minutes here. Is how do people used to get the best education, Sam, 100 years ago, right, or 200 years ago, and every time before that? You know how it was by traveling, right? That's how people used to get the best education by exposing themselves to different cultures, different languages, different everything, right? And I think that's the same case with this. We need to expose ourselves, but we got to consciously do it in a way that we're thinking about how to use this on for our advantage, right? So yeah, exposure is key.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. There's a lot of chat. Brianna, I'm going to read their comment. They said, the problem with IT and SOC analysis and programming is they're all highly contextual. If you've ever had to talk to your health insurance, you can already see how frustrating it is when someone asks GPT to do a job best served by a human. Yeah, and they're just kind of talking about how like an LLM might use kind of templated actions or what have you. So obviously, there's definitely limitations to this stuff right now.
Yeah,
Um,
awesome. Yeah, and thank you for inviting me, Sam. Happy to chat with you and your audience at any time. Okay.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you jet. But thank you so much for joining.